Okay, so yeah, so HashMap is a collection which has which is key value pair based. Okay, so we have key and pair, key and value, so which is known, combination of key and value is known as entry. Okay, so hash map, similar to hash set, contains unique values. It does not have duplicates. Okay, so it maintains no order. It can have, you know, one null key and multiple null values. Hash map. So always remember what is hash map. Hash map is a collection which is having key value pair. Okay, so hash map does not maintain any order. It may have one null key and multiple null values. So and another class implementation of map is linked hash map. So similar to other collection, linked hash map, you know, maintains the insertion order. Okay, it is similar to hash map. The only difference between these two is it maintains the insertion order. Okay, and it also all the implementation of map interface are, you know, are unique, contains unique values, are unique elements. So similarly, if you go to tree map maintains ascending order. And other difference between these hash map, linked hash map and tree map is tree map does not have any null key, but it can have multiple null values. Okay, so if you see, hash map does not maintain any order. Okay, it contain one null key and multiple null values. Yeah, does anyone has any question? Okay, so linked hash map maintains the insertion order, and it can have one null key and multiple null values. And if you go to tree map maintains ascending order, and it cannot have null key, but it can have multiple null values. Okay, so I'll show you all these example using your we'll see these example in Eclipse. So let's see an hash map.
Yes, man. Hello, Rahul.
Hello,
Are you audible? Hey, why the?
go on mute guys if someone is not speaking. Okay, so let's see an example of hash map, how we create an hash map and how we iterate through the hash map. So which is really important, and people may ask you, give us a sample to iterate through your hash map. How can you iterate through an hash map? Okay, so let's see an example. I'll create a hash map using hash map, and as I told, it has key value pair. So we have to define which type of key you are going to store. I will say I want to store integer type. Okay, and which type of value you want to store. So I'll say I want to store integer and string. So I'll say hm equal to new of hash map. Okay, so this is how you create your hash map in Java. Now there is a method called put to add entry in hash map. So I'll say 1 and value will be a. Similarly, I will add multiple values in hash map. Okay, so how you iterate now? I created a hash map. As I told, hash map is a is a key value pair collection. So you have to define which type of key you want to store, and you have to define which type of value you want to store. So I am storing integer as a key and value as a string. So there is a method called put, which is used to add elements or add entry into your hash map. So combination of these two, key and value, is known as entry. Okay. So how you iterate through an hash map? So map has entry function. So if you see map dot entry key value, and you have to define your key and value data type. So it has entry. This is kind of a for each loop. Entry set. So what does entry set do? This entry set will return you a set, the entry, all the entries which is present in your hash map, which is like entry set is nothing but key value pair. Okay. Any question, guys, you have? So this is how you iterate through an map. So you will say get me a key. So you can get key and values using dot get value. These are the two functions which are used to get the key and which are used to get the value also. Now if you run this, run as Java application, you will see 1A, B, C, D. Okay, guys, any question? How you iterate? So how you iterate? We have in map, we have a static function which is entry, which takes 2 parameter. Okay, and your hash map has an entry set. So what we do, we loop through that entry set and then get the key and get the value. Okay. And if you want to get just a value using key, there is another function which is known as hm.get. Right, you just pass key. I want to get a value of our key 1. So what does it will return? So it will return me a value 1A. So output would be A and then the rest of this. Okay, so if I say 4, which value I'll get? I'll get D. So let's suppose I say get me something which is not there in hash map. So what will it return? Let's say 6. If 6 key is not there in hash map, right? So it will return null. Java C, null. Okay, guys, any question on this hash map? How you create, how you iterate? So just remember, while iterating, there is an entry set through which you have to iterate, and you can use method known as method as get key and get value. Guys, you are with me? Any question? Any confusion you have? Okay, so now let's move to your equals and hash function, hash code function. So if someone tells you in which class equals and hash code methods are there, because you directly go to any class and you start writing these methods, right? So where actually you start overriding these methods. So where actually, so you're not able to hear me or see the screen? Are there a lot of disturbance? You want me to wait for some time? Yeah, shall we continue or do you want me to wait for some time before? You able to hear me? Okay, so let's continue. So if you missed something, we went through HashMap, which is nothing but a key value pair collection. Okay, so key value combination of key value is known as entry in Java. So we declare HashMap and this is integer and string. So I want key to be stored as integer and value to be stored as string. So we use put method to insert values in HashMap, and then how you iterate in HashMap, this is really important. So remember this, practice this, because they will ask this question, my navigate this iterate through an HashMap. So you have an entry in a map which is a collection of, which is a combination of integer and key and value. And then remember, this is an important function, entry set. So entry set says all the entries which are present in your hash map. So you iterate those through those set and you can see, you can get value and key. Okay, so let's move to, equals and hash code functions. So where does these two functions exist actually? So there, these two functions present in your object class. This can be asked in an interview question. What are the methods which are available in object class? So you should be able to tell that equals and hash code. There are other methods like cloning, wait, but I'll explain those while we were studying those concepts actually. So for now, you just remember equals and hash codes present in object class. So this can be asked like object class has how many methods. So you start remembering those equals and hash code present in your object class. Okay. So what is hash code basically? So hash code function is a function which returns integer value. Okay. So which is used to calculate a hash code, which is used to give the integer value for a particular key. So what it will do, whenever you call the hash code, it calculates a key, it do some calculation and give an integer value, returns an integer value. Okay. So always remember this, what does hash code do? It always returns the integer value. So which is nothing but a location. And what does equal do? As I explained you equals while we were studying string, equal checks for content, right? So equals and hash code has a contract between them. So if you override equals method, you should override a hash code also. If you don't, there might be issues which I will explain you why after explaining the hash map in internal working. Okay, so always remember there is a contract between equal and hash code, and the contract is this can be asked in an interview question. So this is an interview question. What is a contract between equal and hash code? So remember these 2 points. If two objects are equal, they must have a same hash code. So it means whenever you have objects which are equal, let's suppose I have Tarun and Tarun, they should always produce the same hash code. Okay? If two objects have a same hash code, they may or may not be equal. So there is a case where two objects like ABC and ADE are having hash codes 1, 2, 3, but if you see these ABC and ADE are not equal, even though they have a hash code. So these are the two contracts. If two objects are equal, they must have a same hash code. If two objects have the same hash code, they may or may not be equal. So if I go and tell you Let's suppose I have two object 1 equal to ABC and object 2 equal to ABC. So in this case, I should always get hash code, same hash code, because these two are equal objects, right? So I should get always hash code 1, 2, 3. Understood this point, guys? First point is, if two objects are equal, they should always have the same hash code. Understood this concept? Now second rule is, if two objects, let's suppose I have object 1 equal to ABC and object 2 equal to ABE. So let's suppose your hash code function returns uh, hash code of both ABC and ABE as 1 to 4, right? So it means, but these objects are not equal. So if two objects are equal, they should always have a same hash code. If two objects have the same hash code, they may or may not be equal. Okay, so remember these rules, guys. You got these rules about equal and hash map contract. So there is a contract between equals and hash code. So remember these two rules. Got my point? Any question you have regarding this hash code and equals? Any question, guys? Am I audible? You are with me? So you understand what is hash code and what is equals, what is the contract between these two? Before we move to internal working of HashMap. Okay, guys, now very important question. Okay, so what I said, hash code is a function which returns an integer value, right? So what it do, it internally calculates the location. Okay, it takes input as an object and it calculates the integer value. Simple in layman language, if you say hash code is nothing but an integer value. Okay, and equals, I told you, it is used to compare the, it is used to check the contents, right? So you know equal. So there is a contract between, in Java, there these two are very tightly coupled and they complement each other. That's why Java comes up with Java people comes up with the contract between these two. So what is a contract between these two? First contract is, if two objects are equal, they must always have a same hash code, which means, example I showed you, if I have object 1 ABC and object 2 ABC, they should always have a same hash code. Okay, and second thing is, if two objects have a same hash code, they may or may not be equal. Example is, I showed you, object 1 gives is equal to ABC, object 2 equal to ABE. Let's suppose hash code function return us a hash code of 1 to 4, which is like common for both. But in that case, equals comes into picture and check for object content, right? So ABC ABE are not equal, right? So that's why we say, if two objects having the same hash code, they may or may not be equal. So this is the second contract. The first contract is, if two objects are equal, they must always have a same hash code. Second contract is, if two objects are having same hash code, they may or may not be equal. Okay, got it? Got this contract between equals and hash code? Because this is really base of your any programming, right? Because we will be using the in comparator comparison, and then we will be using that in hash set, hash map, everywhere this is being used internally. Sairam, any question? You understand this? If yes, then we can move to internal working of HashMap. Now this is really important question. 100% people will ask you. If you say I know collection, I have an understanding of collection, they will ask you this question: how HashMap internally works. So HashMap internally works on the principle of hashing. So we have like three concepts here. While in HashMap, first is hash function, hash value, and bucket. Okay. So hash function is nothing but the hash code, which I explained, which returns an integer value always. Okay. So hash code is present in object class all. Remember this: hash code and equals are in object class. So hash function is nothing but a hash code which returns you an integer value. Okay. And what is bucket? A bucket is, as the name says, it is a collection of store key. It is a store for key value pairs actually. We say it's a collection of key value pairs. Okay. So it is used to store key value pairs. Simple. So bucket is a location. Whenever you say put, bucket is a location where your entry goes. Okay. So this is how before moving to the internal working of HashMap, these are the simple concept. What is bucket? Whenever you create a put, okay, so this goes to, this entry goes to bucket. So bucket is a store for entry. Okay, by entry I mean key and value. Okay. So don't get confused. Key and value, if I say key and value, if I say entry, both are same. Now let's see how this hash map works. So if someone says you hash map, how hash map works, so you should say hash map works on the principle of hashing. So there are a couple of scenarios which we comes up with hash map. First is a simple scenario, and the second is where we have objects with the same hash code. Okay, so let's start with the simple implementation or simple scenario where I have, okay, so let's start with the simple scenario. If I say put, let's start with put method. So how you explain to people, you start with the put method. Okay, so you just say that when we call put method, okay, when we call put method, it internally called hash code function. Okay, and it calculates the integer value or a bucket location. Okay, and allocate a bucket. Okay, I'm back, some network issue. So you just start with the put method. You just tell interviewer that let's start with the put method. When you say put key and value, what it happens, it internally calculates the hash code and allocate a location in a bucket. So whenever you create a hash map, the bucket of, I think, size 16 is getting created. Okay, so whenever you say put, it goes to a hash code, calculates the it goes to a hash code function, returns you an integer value, which is nothing but a location reference in a bucket. Okay, so this is how put works. simple put works. So if you say again one more statement, put dot put, I'll say 2 comma, okay. So what will happen? It again goes to a hash code. It internally calls hash code, calculates the integer and allocates a location in bucket. Okay, this is how your put method works. Simple. Don't get confused. Simple way to explain is this is the way. So you say whenever we call put method, it calculates the hash code and allocates a location in a bucket. Simple. Now what is the next second function? When we say get, right, hm dot get of 1. Hello, am I audible? Am I audible? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me, guys? Okay. So you understand what is how put function works? Simple. When you say put function, it calculates a hash code and allocates a location in a bucket. So now what is another function? It's a get function. Okay, so hm dot get. So you pass key, how it calculates. Now what internally happens? It again calculates the hash code. As I said, right, if two objects are same, it always generates the same hash code, right? So while putting, I said 1. So let's suppose it's 1 generates hash code 123, okay, and it allocates a location in a bucket, right? So now if I say get 1, it should give me a hash code of what? 123, right? So when I say get me a 1, it calculates the hash code, go to that location, go to that location in a bucket and returns the value. Simple. So you understand the simplest scenario, how HashMap works internally? You understand how HashMap works internally now? Like if someone asks you, you start with HashMap internally works on the principle of hashing, where we have we have hash code equals and bucket concept. Bucket is nothing but a store for your entries. So let me start with the put method. When we call put method with the key and value, hash code internally generates, the hash map internally call hash code, which generates an integer value and allocates, which is nothing but a location in your bucket, and allocates that location to your bucket. And then if you say get method, let me explain a get method also. So if you say get me a key of 1, it again hash map again internally calls a hash code, and as the contract between hash code and an equal, if two objects are equal, they should always produce the same hash code. It will go to that location like 123 and return me that value, right? So this is how your hash map works. Simplest scenario in hash map. and how HashMap works. Okay, got this, guys? Any confusion on this? Please let me know. I can repeat it again. Before I move to another scenario, second scenario, any question? Okay, so let me repeat now. So as I told you, HashMap has two functions, put and get, right? So put is used to add elements into HashMap and get is used to get the value from a hash code, right? So you store something, you get something. There are two methods, put and get. So how you explain? You just say whenever we create a HashMap, right? It internally creates a bucket of 16 size. So with the first scenario, let me explain a put method. If you say, like, if I call put method with a key and value, it HashMap internally calls hash code and generates an integer value, which is nothing but a reference to your location in a bucket. So when I say put, the two-step process happens. It calculates a hash code and allocate a location in a bucket. So similarly, if I say another put, it do the same process. It calculates the hash code and allocates a location in a bucket. Now I stored the entry in hash map. Now what's next? Which is get value. Guys, go on mute, please. Are you have any question? Any question, guys? So yeah, so I was in middle of explaining what get do. So another method is get, right, which is used to get the value from your hash map. So when you call a get, it again calculates the hash code integer value, go to that location which is already there in a bucket while you call the put, and returns the value, right? So as I told, if two objects are equal, they must produce the same hash code. This is how your JVM picks that value from the location. So it is nothing but an index. You can understand it as hash code as an index for your bucket. Okay, Vijay, any question? Do you understand this now? You understand this? You understand this? Before we move to another scenario, second scenario, simple concept but powerful. Like, most of the people don't know the second scenario now, which I'm going to explain you the second scenario also. So let's move to second scenario. Let's suppose you as a programmer call this function. I have key 1 and I say value ABC. I'll say value A. Okay. Now what happened in this case? As I told, it calculates the hash code and allocates the location in bucket. So let's suppose the hash code of 1 is 123 4 5. Now what I did, I went and I just added one more entry in my hash map, which is with key 1 1 and value B. Now what it did, it again goes to a hash code. It follows the same thing, the hash code, and it returns me a hash code 1 2 3 4 5. Okay. Now, right, so let's suppose this key also returns me a hash code of 1 2 3 4. What will happen in this case? Right, so this is a scenario, you understand? If your key returns the same hash code, if your two keys which are different returns the same hash code, what will happen in that case? So you say, I created, like, you added one entry, it calculates a hash code and you allocate a location in a bucket. Now if the another entry produces the same hash code, what will happen? then equals comes into picture. Equals comes into picture. So what equals do now? Equals checks for equality of 1 and 11. If these two are not equal, right? If these two keys are not equal, it creates the linked list and store the entry. Simple. So now this is a scenario where your two keys can produce the same hash code. So if it produces the same hash code, so you cannot directly override it, right? So you cannot have duplicate values in your hash map, which is the definition of your hash map. So if it produces the same hash code, you cannot override the existing value, right? So in that case, what internally hash map do, it checks for it the equals function comes into picture, and it checks for the two keys. If those keys are not equal, it creates a linked list and store the entry. So it means in my hash map now I have both the entry, even though I have the keys with the same hash code. Guys, you got this concept, this put concept for keys which have same hash code. Any question on this concept? Are you understand what is this? If you call a put method and it gives you a same hash code, what will happen? Anyone, guys, you are with me? Okay, so if you call put method, yeah, it will store entry. Yes. So bucket is nothing but a store for entries. So entry is a key value pair. You cannot separately store key and value. It will store as an entry. Okay. So in this case, remember this case also, when you have a same hash code, equals comes into picture. It creates the linked list internally and store the entry. Okay. So now what will happen if you call put hm dot put hm dot get, sorry, what will happen if you call get? If you say 1, what will happen now? It calculates the hash code similarly, and what is the hash code we will get? 1 2 3 4 5, because while storing we will get 1 2, we got 1 2 3 4 hash code, right? So we'll get 1 2 3 4 hash code. Now map goes to your bucket and see what is the location, where is this location in bucket is. Now if you see 1 2 3 4, while storing we stored multiple values for 1 2 3 4. Now while getting also, if you say 1 2 3 4, we should get two entries, right? But this won't happen. It will say, it will again equals function comes into picture again. If it find duplicate value, equals comes into picture again and check the key equality. So it will go to a location, where key is 1. Simple. So, and return you a value. Okay guys, so this is the overall working of your hash map. So you want me to repeat? Let me repeat it once again. So this is how you say and you answer in an interviews. Because if you say this scenario, people will ask you what will happen if there are same hash code. Then ultimately you have to answer this. So before proactively you just answer this also, the interviewer will get impressed that you have a great understanding of hash map. Okay, so let me explain again. So once you create an hash map, the bucket of size 16 is getting created in your memory. So there are two methods which are being used to store and retrieve the entries. Those are put and get. Let's see the first scenario. There are a couple of scenarios which may happens in HashMap. Let's start with the first scenario, which is a simple scenario. And let's say I call a put method and I say 1 comma ABC. So what happened in this case? It goes to a hash code, calculates the integer value and allocates the location in a bucket. Similarly, if I call put method again, it again goes to a hash code. It calculates the hash code, returns the integer value and allocates a location in a bucket. Now if I call get method again call the hash code, and as I said, the contract between the hash code and a equal is two methods, two objects which are equal should always return me a same hash code. So it returns me a hash code and it goes to a location, bucket location, and get me a value. Simple. Now what will happen if two keys have a same hash code, right? So this is a scenario. There is a scenario where you can have a same hash code but different content, I can say. So in that case equals comes into picture and HashMap store that value. Similarly, if you say get, in that case also equals comes into picture and get returns you a value. So now in this there are a couple of questions now. So people will ask you what will happen if I won't override equals method. So can anyone tell me now, because I explained it very clearly and this is the simplest way I can explain you. If you still have any question or doubt or you are not clear with the working of HashMap, raise your concern here. Please let me know. I'll explain it again. Any question guys you have for this working before we move on, and I can ask you some couple of questions. Any question about this? Any question guys? Come on, you understand? Okay. So it's clear for you this working. Now if I say I am an interviewer and I ask you a question, let's suppose I don't override a equal method, what will happen? So will you be able to answer it? Any one of you? I didn't override a equal method, what will happen? In this case, if I say I don't have any equal method, so then what would have been happened? Your hash map contains duplicate values. Simple. If equal method is not there, right? If you say this produce the hash code 123, this also produce the hash code 123. If I don't have equal method, what will happen? It will, your hash map may have duplicate values. Okay, so if someone says you, if you won't implement your override your equal method, the answer would be you will get duplicate values while calling get also, right? So I will call 1, there would be like 1 2 3 4 5 hash code, and I don't have equal function. It would be like it should return me a 2 values, and the compiler would be in ambiguity. Simple. Okay, got this concept guys? Hash map concept now fully. So multiple questions can be asked in HashMap, like how to iterate through an HashMap, what is the internal working of HashMap, what is equal and hash code function. Okay, so what is the contract between these two, and then if what is the internal working of HashMap and the different scenarios which comes in while working with HashMap. And then last question may be this equals, if I want to override equal method, what will happen? Okay, any question on this HashMap guys? This is really important, and people may ask multiple 2 to 3 questions on this topic. Simple, and it's not a rocket science. You should be able to understand it clearly. Any question, guys? Anything? Any confusion, or you want me to repeat again? If not, we can go ahead with other things now. Answer, guys, so that I can be able to move on, and I'll be happy that you understand things. So if you answer me, so just say yes or no. Are you able to understand? Are you have any questions before we move on? Okay, so let's move on to comparator now, which is again an important interview question. Comparable and comparator. So let's start with sorting an array. Yeah. So how you sort an array in Java? Does anyone know? How you sort an element in array? Array in Java. Does anyone know? Okay, so let's start with this. Sort method in collection will be used to sort list and sets, not array. Okay. So you should always know the difference. Array is not a collection. So I said right. So collection dot sort will not use for array, will not work for array, because array is not a collection. So how you sort an array? Using arrays dot sort. Int array. So as I told while I was explaining you collection, array is not a collection, right? It is not a collection, part of collection framework. So if you say 1 comma 4 comma 5 comma 2, so I define an array which is of type integer. Now if I say sys out array before sorting, for how you loop through an array, you say int I equal to 0, I less than array dot length, and I plus plus, and you can loop through an array. Now we can just print these values, array of I. Now there is a method, as I told, this is not a collection, this is just an array. So there is a method known as arrays dot sort. So you just passed an array in that. Done. So this is an inbuilt method which comes with arrays. And now let's print the value after sorting. So let me take this and paste here. So now what would be the output of this? I should get 1 2 4 5, right? So you say run as, run server, run on application. So see, so after sorting I got a sorted array 1 2 4 5, right? So let's suppose if I add here 6 or 0, what would be the output? Run as Java application, see the error. This is the output 0 1 2 3 2 4 5. Okay, so this is how the sorting of an array works. So don't get confused. If someone says you how to sort an array in Java, don't say collection, because array is not a collection. Just say arrays dot sort. Okay, so now if I say how to sort an array list, what would be your answer? How to sort an array list? How do I sort an array list in Java? Few minutes back I told you, right? Collections.sort. Array list is a collection. You all know that. So there is a method known as collection.sort, which is used to sort a list, set, anything which is in collection. Okay. So okay guys. So you want me to show an example? Let's see an example. Array list. I'll create an array list of string. I say array list al. I'll say new of array list string. So I'll add some values here. So I'll say C. I will say A, and similarly I'll say B. Let's have three values in array list. Okay. So now array list before sorting al dot size. So this is again, remember this array has a size. Why is it getting okay? Not A1, AL. Okay. So now remember this, collections always have size and array has length. So that's why I say al dot size al I. So this is how you get a value in array list. So now how to sort of array list? You just say collections dot sort and pass that array list in that method. Now copy paste this. Array list after sorting. So what would be my output? ABC, right? If you see, this is the array list before sorting, CAB. Array list after sorting is ABC. Okay guys, so you understand the concept of sorting an array and sorting a list or collection. So if someone says you sort an array, you guys with me, right? So if someone says you sort an array, how do you sort an array in Java? You cannot say collections dot sort because array is not a collection, array is just an array. So there is a method which says arrays dot sort. So as the name says itself, you can remember to sort an array, you say arrays dot sort. For sort any collection, collections dot sort. Simple. Okay guys. Okay, so now the question is why I told, now let's have a user defined class. Let me have a class which is employee, and in this employee I have int name, int age, and int name. Now I have constructor, okay, and I have again age and name as two parameters. So I'll assign this value, age equal to age, this dot name equal to name. Name is not integer, it is string. So let me change this data type to string. Simple, done. This is my user defined class. What happened? Okay. So let's suppose I say student. I have a constructor for student 1. Okay, so this is my user defined class where I have a student. It has age and name. Okay, so now what I do, I will go and create object of that class, right? So how do you create an object of that class? Student 1 as object 1 equal to new of student, and you pass a value age and name. I'll say A. Similarly, create another object O2, change the value, age is 11, name is B, and similarly add create another object, age is 12 and name is C. So now what we have to add in that array list, we are going to add user defined objects. This is my user defined object. I'll say 2, I'll say 3, simple. So but here data type I have to change it to student 1. So what I did basically, I'm going to store user defined object in my array list. Now if I say, now if you see I'm getting an array of sorting, so it means there is no method to sort your user defined objects. So this is an interview question. People ask you, I have an employee object, okay, I have some member variables in that employee object, how will you sort that in Java? So you cannot say collections dot sort, array dot sort, whatever. So the concept called is comparator and comparable. So there are two interfaces which is being provided by Java to sort an user defined object. By saying user defined object, you can have any class, employee, student, anything, right? So you if you want to sort user defined object, you have to use two interfaces, either of the one of the two interfaces, which is comparable and comparator. Okay, so the question, simple question people will ask you, I have student employee class, how do I want to sort based upon his age, how can you do that? So your answer would be either we can use comparator or we can use comparable. Okay guys, understood? That's why I showed you these arrays, sorting of array and list before I explain the concept of comparator and comparable, so that you can, understand better. So any question on this before we move on to comparable? Before we move on how and see how we sort this object in Java, user defined object in Java. Any question guys? No? So this is what I showed you, sort arrays, example, list, right? So these are all things I showed you. So, so as I told you, for sorting user defined objects, you have to either use comparable and comparator, right? So now the interviewer will ask, if you answer this, uh, the first question would be, I have an employee class, how do you sort that employee? I have two variables in that, in name and age, how do you sort that class? So you just say comparable and comparator. So next question would be, when to use when, and what is comparator and what is comparable. So let's start with the comparable. Comparable is an interface which has method compare to, and which takes object as an input. Okay, so always remember, comparable has method compare to, which has only one input parameter, and comparable is a single sorting. So example would be, if in an employee I want to sort my employee object on basis of age. Okay, on basis of age, I want to sort an employee object. How this is a single sorting, right? You are sorting using only one variable, which is age. So how you will do that? The answer would be comparable. So comparable has only one, like it has a method which is compared to and which takes one parameter. So if you want to sort by, if you want to achieve a single sorting, you should use comparable. And where should you use comparator? So comparator is an interface which has method compare and which takes two objects. So if you want to, and comparator is also known as multiple sorting. Okay, and if you want to sort by name and age or any other variables, how you will achieve in Java? You should use comparator. So if he asks you where to use comparable and where to use comparator, the answer would be, tell him with the example saying that if I have an employee class, I have three variables there. I want to sort only based upon an age, which is a single sorting. I will go with comparable, which has compare to method and which takes one object as an input. And if in the same class I want to sort based upon age and name, I will, which is a multiple sorting, I will go with comparator, which has compare function, which takes two input as an object. Simple. If you answer this, like, you are on. Okay, so any question, any confusion on how, when to use comparable and when to use comparator, and the methods which comparator and comparable has? Any question, guys? Are you understand? You understood? Guys, these are really important concepts. That's why I'm saying that. Tell me if you have any confusion or any question, and if you want to repeat again, I can repeat again and again to make you understand. So because these are important, and if you read these, you won't be able to understand. So you will keep reading it from Google, and if someone says you, then you can remember these examples very clearly, right? So that's why I'm saying. Okay, so yes. So as I said, sorting an array and sorting in collections we can do using inbuilt method which are known as collection arrays.sort and collections.sort. So what if user wants to sort an array and user defined objects? Let's use it by saying user defined object. I mean, let's suppose I have a student object which has age and name, and I want to sort based upon an age. How would you achieve that? So to sort user defined objects, there are concepts called comparable and comparator in interfaces in Java. We use these two concepts to sort an a user defined object. So this is an interview question. People ask you like this: I have employee class, I have two variables in that, name and age. How do you sort based upon an age? You should say either based, we can use, there are two concepts called comparable and comparator in Java which are used to sort user defined objects. Now another question can be when to use comparable, and so before moving that, what is comparable and what is comparator? So as I said, comparable is a single sorting interface, okay, which has compare to method which takes only one input. Okay, and example for that is, if I have a student class, if you're seeing this class, if I want to sort only based upon an age, I can say I can use comparable because it is a single sorting mechanism. It is a single sorting interface. Now, what is comparator? So what is comparator now? Comparator is a multiple sorting algorithm, okay, or we can say collection interface, which is used to sort, like if you want to sort your class based upon multiple variables or multiple criteria, you can use comparator, and comparator has compare method which takes two input as a parameter. Okay, so now when to use when. Okay, so when will you use comparable and when will you use comparator? So with an example, let me explain you. Let's take this example itself. So I have a class which is student. I have another, let's suppose I have something city. So I have three member variables here. Okay. Now I want to sort this student object based upon age. How will I do that? As I told you, comparable is a single sorting mechanism. We can use comparable, and we can for this scenario we can use comparable. We override compare to method which takes only one input as a parameter. Okay, so we can use comparable in this case. Now what if I want to sort based on age and name? So this automatically becomes multiple sorting, right? So we can say that we can use comparator in this case, comparator in this case, which has compare method which takes two input as a parameter. So guys, you got the concept now? When to use comparator, what is comparable, and with the example, will you be able to explain now to anyone if someone asks you when to use comparable and when to use comparator? Guys, anyone, the people who asked this, Sai Ram, Rahul, AJ, you guys understood now? Or you want me to explain again? So simple concept, always remember an example, and if you are defining or explaining anything in Java, just explain that with an example. It would have the great impression of yours on an interviewer. Okay. So Rahul, are you clear with this? Yeah, I'm going to show that. Before showing that, I was just explaining you how this what is the difference between these two. So I'll explain you how to use comparable in Java, and I will give you and using the comparator would be an assignment for you. You just go to home and start, like maybe create a program using comparator. Okay. So Rahul, you understand now? Any confusion? Anything you want? When to use these things, comparator and comparable? What is a real-time example? Is clear. Okay, so let's see an example of comparator and see how do we sort our student one class. Okay, so let me remove the city. I don't want to make it complicated. So let's suppose I want to sort using age. 1 minute guys, I'll be back. 2 minutes. Hello, yeah guys. So let's see how do we sort and student object using comparable. Okay, so let's see how we sort using comparable. So as I told, comparable is an interface. So we have to implement that interface. So you say implements comparable, right? So comparable of type student one. So how you start using comparable in your class? By implementing a interface. So how do you implement an interface? By using keyword implements. So for implementing interfaces in Java, you use keyword implements. So what is the next stage? As I told you, comparable is an interface where we have to override a method which is known as compare to. If you just hover over on this class, it will say add unimplemented method, which means compare to. Okay, so this is how you create a class which implements comparable. Now in this we will write a logic. Say if age is equal to o dot age, we will say return 0. Else if, so this is just a, because we will be sorting based upon an age. So if age is greater than o dot age, we will say return 1. Else return -1. So this is the logic equal to. Okay guys, so first step is to implement a comparable interface, override a compare to method which takes one input as a parameter and it compares with itself. So that's why we wrote age. If age equal to o dot age, the age which you passed, it will compare with itself actually. So now let's write a main method. I already have this. I already created 3 objects. I added them in array list. Now how this method will be called? Now the question is how compare to method will be getting called. So you have to use collections dot sort method. If you use this, it internally calls compare to method. Now you see we are not getting error for sort because we already use a comparable. Okay guys, any question up to here? Any question up to here guys? So in this, the interviewer will ask you how you implement comparable in Java. So you just say we have to implement an interface compare to and override compare to method. Okay, and he will say how this compare to method will be called. You just say we have to write collections dot sort. Remember these 3 steps for creating a comparable in Java. Okay, and now how you iterate through this object? You use for object for each loop. You say student 1 O A L. Simple. So now you say print. I want O dot age. Always confused between O and 0. O dot age, O dot name. So what would be the output you are expecting? So let's move this age to 8 and then this would be 14. So if you run this program, run as Java application, see, now I sort an object based upon age 8, 10, 17. So if you create another object which is like my age is 4, you add that object in array list. O4, you say O4, done. Now if you say run as Java application, see, this is how you do a sorting, you're sorting for your user defined object. Any question on this, guys? You want me to repeat again? Or you guys are cleared with this? Have a look on this and let me know if you have any question on this program. How do you sort and use sort user defined object in Java? Have a look on this program and let me know. Any question, guys? Really important questions which we discussed today. Hash map and then this comparator, comparable, and I would recommend you to go and do comparator example by yourself at your home and let me know if you face any challenge or any issue. Does it make sense, right? Because I don't want to do it here. You just if you start doing it and writing the code, it would be helpful for you. So similar example, but the only difference between comparator and comparable is if I want to sort using both the variables, right? So I can have here only compare method, simple, nothing else. Okay, guys. Any question on comparator interface or your hash map, when to use comparator, when to use comparable, how to implement comparator, right? Comparable, if someone gives you an example like program to sort an employee using his ID, you will be able to sort it right now using comparable. Okay, so comparator, you do it at home and share the program with me. You can ping me on WhatsApp anywhere if you have any confusion regarding that, but that is again a simple thing. So any question about these topics before we move on? Okay, I think you people understand this. And the question would be, the important interview question would be comparator versus comparable. What is the difference? When to use when? So you should be able to understand. You should be able to answer this. Okay. So what else now we so from tomorrow we will start uh, serialization. Okay, this is again a small topic of serialization but an important topic, and then we can start with threads, and after threads we will go with synchronization, and then I'll tell you design patterns and log4j, how do you implement log4j, and then the simple MVC. After MVC we will go through Spring IOC and then Spring MVC. After moving to Spring MVC, I'll give you this just a small introduction on how you perform JUnit testing on your applications, and what are the different SDLC models we follow, like Agile, what is Jenkins, what is Jira, what is JUnit, right? So those are TDD tools, continuous integration tool. So I'll explain you those also. After SDLC, we will go to Hibernate and we will see the Hibernate applications. Okay guys, does it make sense? Anything else you want me to include, or any other expectations you have? Please let me know, I can plan accordingly. If you have any other expectation. Any question guys? Anything? Do you have tech front and teach front end? Do you teach front end? Yes, but that is not a part of this course. That is again a separate which is separate course which is going on, and if you all are interested you can join that course. CSS Java, which includes CSS, JavaScript, HTML, HTML5, CSS3, AngularJS, Bootstrap, jQuery. So these are the technologies which is being covered in another session which is going on. So they almost cover up to here, right? CSS, I think they covered up to here. No, they are just studying JavaScript right now, and if you want to join that, you can join that. Okay, you can just talk to Prithvi how you want to, because I cannot take decision and I cannot send you links. You just talk to Prithvi. You know Prithvi, right? You guys know Prithvi? No? Okay. So okay, I'll ask Prithvi then to contact you. Okay, so if you guys are interested, you can join that course, which is specifically going for front end, which includes all these technologies, and these are very hot in industry also. You see, AngularJS, Bootstrap, jQuery, CSS5, HTML5 is very hot in the industry. Okay, guys, anything else? Except in Java, if you see anything else which I didn't cover, if you want me to cover that also, I can plan accordingly. If you don't see here, right? So as I told you, Spring IOC, Spring MVC, followed by your what I said, SDLC, JUnit, MVC, Log4j, and then yeah, these are the things, and including Hibernate also. So if you find anything which is missing, do let me know. And what is your expectation about this Java? Do you want me to include anything else? I can plan accordingly. So okay guys, any question before we wrap up? So tomorrow we'll start with exception threads and serialization. So threads won't take like it, because for freshers it would be very difficult to understand threads completely, but I will give you overview and I'll explain the interviews question which can be asked for a fresher to a fresher, but even the interviewer won't expect freshers to answer a thread question for sure 110%. Okay, so but keeping that aside, I don't want you not you to teach this thread, so I'll go ahead and teach the threads concept, and then we'll see the synchronization. Okay. Okay guys, if you don't have any question, we can wrap up, we can drop